If life feels too exhausting, listen to these three stories to enlighten your mind. Every person's life cannot always be smooth sailing. There will always be obstacles ahead, blocking the way. Therefore, you must learn how to escape from difficult situations as quickly as possible. On the road of life, full of hardships, sometimes stopping for a while to listen to meaningful stories can help you realize that there are things that need to be changed, things that need to be done. This will benefit you in the future. Join me in reflecting on these stories. Story 1. Where does the true value of a person lie? There was a beggar, missing his right arm, looking pitiful. Anyone who saw him would give him alms. One day, he went to a farmer's house to beg for food. The female owner told him, "First, move the pile of bricks from the gate into the yard." The beggar, angry, replied, "You know very well I only have one arm, and yet you ask me to move bricks? Are you mocking the disabled?" Unexpectedly, the female owner sat down and, deliberately using only one arm, began moving the bricks. After finishing, she turned to the beggar and said, "I can move the bricks with one arm. Why can't you?" The beggar was speechless and, with difficulty, began to move the bricks with one arm. It took him 2 hours to finish the task, sweat pouring down his face. The female owner handed him a white towel. After wiping his face and neck, the towel turned black from the sweat. She then gave him $50. The beggar thanked her repeatedly, and she said, "You don't need to thank me. This is payment for your work, earned through your sweat." The beggar replied, "I will never forget your kindness. Please let me keep this towel as a memento." Years later, the beggar, now wearing an elegant suit, came to find the farmer's family. Seeing that the female owner had aged, he said, "I was once a beggar. Now I am the CEO of a company. It is thanks to you that I regained my human dignity, which I had lost, and was able to start a new life. Without you, I might still be wandering aimlessly." The female owner replied, "It is because you did it yourself." The CEO wanted to give her a house, but she gently declined. He couldn't understand why. She smiled and said, "Because my family and I only have one arm. To maintain the dignity of a human being, one must respect oneself, respect those we know, and even respect those we don't. By finding joy in our work, life becomes valuable. Doing what we love, even if it doesn't bring much money, is worth more than having a lot of money but losing our soul. When faced with personal misfortune, don't magnify it too much. Many others are suffering even more. When we view our own misfortunes as small, we can easily overcome them, living happily, positively, and creating a meaningful life. The most valuable things in a person are the heart and the mind. By awakening the seeds of kindness in the heart, the mind becomes creative and miracles will happen in life. A physical disability, like the beggar losing one arm, is just a small obstacle. A single change in mindset can turn him from a beggar into a company president. When it comes to physical disabilities, perhaps few people are as unfortunate as Nick Vujicic, born without arms and legs. Yet, he did not succumb to despair or self-pity. He even built a successful career and a happy family. He serves as an inspiration to millions of disabled people, as well as to those without disabilities around the world. Character defines the value of a person. Even those with physical disabilities and poor health, who still cultivate great character and strong willpower, can rise to be people of value, respected and admired by all. Story 2. Reverse thinking creates miraculous breakthroughs. The biggest difference between a successful person and an ordinary one lies in their mindset. Successful people think about problems from different perspectives, and when they face adversity, they know how to apply reverse thinking. 1. A wealthy man and free Wi-Fi. There was a wealthy man who was always afraid someone would rob his house whenever he left. He wanted to buy a wolf dog to guard the house, but worried about the cost of feeding it. After a long time of thinking, he finally came up with an idea. Before leaving the house, he removed the Wi-Fi password and made it free. Then he left the house with peace of mind. Since that day, there were always more than 10 people standing in front of his house using the free Wi-Fi. His house was very safe, and he didn't worry anymore. Reverse thinking changes the way you look at a problem, and the results can be vastly different. 2. A wealthy man and the price of tomatoes. A wealthy man went to buy tomatoes. He asked the vendor how much the tomatoes cost per kilogram. The vendor said 5 USD per kilogram. The man picked up 2 small tomatoes and put them on the scale. Then he picked up the biggest tomato and added it to the scale. The vendor weighed them and said 10 USD. The man removed the largest tomato from the scale to indicate he didn't want it. The vendor gave him a scornful look and said arrogantly, 8 USD. In reality, the largest tomato weighed more than the 2 smaller ones combined, which made the vendor's behavior unreasonable. The people around were displeased, but the wealthy man calmly took 2 USD out of his pocket, handed it to the vendor, and left with the largest tomato. Reverse thinking changes the calculation method, and you can discover new ways to solve a problem. 3. The fishing pond and chickens. There was a newly opened fishing pond, and the entry fee was 20 USD. However, most people couldn't catch any fish even after sitting there all day. The owner then said, if you can't catch a fish, you'll get a chicken as compensation. As a result, many people rushed to the pond to fish. When they left, everyone carried a chicken in their hands and felt happy, thinking the owner was very generous. Later, the pond manager told everyone that the owner was actually a professional chicken farmer. 4. The old man and the children. There was an old man who enjoyed peace and quiet, but children often came to play near his house, which annoyed him greatly. He came up with an idea. He called the children over and said, "Uncle here loves peace and quiet. Thank you for coming and making the atmosphere lively." Then he gave each child 3 candies. The children were delighted and came to play every day. A few days later, he reduced the number of candies to 2, then to 1, and eventually stopped giving them altogether. The children were upset and said angrily, "We're not coming here to entertain you anymore." The old man finally regained the peaceful environment he wanted. Reverse thinking means understanding others' weaknesses. There's nothing that cannot be achieved. A salesperson and a suspicious wife. A salesperson said to a customer, "We have a book titled 500 Reasons Why Men Come Home Late. You must buy it." The customer laughed and asked, "Why?" The salesperson calmly replied, "Because your husband also bought this book." Reverse thinking targets psychology, putting control in your hands. Habit 6. The buffet and food waste. A buffet restaurant noticed that customers wasted too much food, so they implemented a rule. Those who wasted food would be fined 50 USD. As a result, business declined. Later, the management came up with a new solution. Increase the buffet price by 50 USD, but offer a refund of 50 USD to customers who didn't waste food. This change unexpectedly boosted business and eliminated food waste. Reverse thinking. Never let customers feel like they're losing something. Instead, make them feel they're gaining something. 7. The old monk and the young monk. An old monk asked a young monk, "If stepping forward means death and stepping backward also means death, what would you do?" The young monk replied without hesitation, "I'll walk sideways." Reverse thinking. When faced with an obstacle ahead and behind, look for another path. Life is full of unpredictable challenges and failures. In such moments, maintain an optimistic mindset and approach problems from different angles. Reverse thinking can help you turn adversity into opportunity. Sometimes, losing something is a way of gaining something else. I hope that even in difficult times, you can stay optimistic, learn the art of reverse thinking, and become a successful person. The third story. Anger is instinct. Controlling anger is bravery. You may have encountered situations like these: being falsely accused at work, almost colliding with an oncoming vehicle on the road, coming home to find a child unable to understand a question even after you've explained it repeatedly. In such moments, human instinct often leads to anger. But if we always act impulsively, argue with others, and lose our composure, we may not only fail to resolve the problem, but also create additional troubles. Here's a situation to illustrate this. One evening, a man was driving to the airport to pick up his brother. On the way back, at a red light intersection, the light turned green, but the 3-wheeled vehicle in front didn't move. Meanwhile, the car behind them honked incessantly. The man lowered his window and leaned out to see what was happening. The driver behind shouted angrily, "What are you looking at? Move!" In that moment, the man was furious. "It's not that I don't want to move. The way is blocked." "Can't you see?" he shouted back. His brother signaled him to remain calm and not yell at the driver behind. Then the brother rolled down his window, turned around, and said to the driver behind, "Sorry, there's a three-wheeled vehicle blocking the way ahead. I'll check what's going on." He got out of the car, walked to the front, and found that the driver of the three-wheeled vehicle was on the phone and hadn't noticed the light had turned green. After passing through the intersection, the younger brother said to the elder, "You're so good-tempered." Clearly, the driver behind couldn't see the vehicle ahead and blamed us instead. The elder brother replied, "What's the point of arguing with him? Arguments don't solve problems. Being able to endure, to restrain yourself, that's a sign of wisdom and strength." In truth, not everyone is born with such composure. It is the result of self-discipline, developed through life's challenges and experiences. When this elder brother was younger, he too had a fiery temper and often clashed with others. However, over the years, working alone in a different city, he rose from being an ordinary employee to a senior manager. As his capabilities grew, so did his humility and patience. Anger is one of humanity's basest instincts. When a person loses their calm and gentleness, they lose their edge over others.